So, is Tess Holiday actually admitting that her size caused her injury? Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Katie, and for those of you who don't know me, I used to weigh 360 pounds, and I've lost 180 pounds and kept it off for years now. And on this channel, we will discuss weight loss, weight maintenance, nonsense I see online about body positivity and fat acceptance, my experiences with all of that, and well, anything else I feel like talking about. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below and let's get into today's video. So today I have several TikToks from two new friends to the channel, as well as checking back in with a couple of old friends. So why don't we just dive right in and I'll give you my reactions along the way. Hi, editing Katie here. This video ended up much longer than I anticipated, so I ended up breaking it up into two parts, and this is part one. Our first new friend to the channel is Megan Ray, your fat big sis, and she's got some thoughts on TikTok's new Chubby filter, so let's go ahead and see what she has to say.
The irony of this chubby filter trend is that a lot of you look better after.
Okay, so that feels like a backhanded compliment. But why don't we go ahead and check out one of those TikToks and see what that filter is all about? Okay, so it appears that it's just a random AI generator filter. TikTok's seemingly full of them, it feels like. I've seen them to change people into vampires or Walking Dead characters or like woodland nymphs, stuff like that. And my issue is never what they're being transformed into, it's always the fact that it's AI. That's always been my issue with it, but let's see what our friend has to say about this filter. Hey, and our friend is responding to a comment that reads, "This is a crazy take. Now imagine someone said that about chubby people using a skinny filter." Okay, that is a fair point. So let's see how our friend responds.
Hey, Preet. So just so you know, people tell us all the time that we would look better skinny. Hope that helps.
Okay, and doesn't fat acceptance also tell us all the ways that they don't like the way they're being treated? So why then would they wish to do that to other people? I'm genuinely confused by that. And isn't the point of these filters so you can visualize it if you'd like? So if these skinny individuals are using the chubby filter and they do think they look better chubby, I mean, it's giving them the blueprint of how to achieve that build then, right? I mean, I know at least personally, at 360 pounds, I had a very difficult time visualizing what I would look like at a different weight. I could kind of visualize to some degree just knowing what other weights I had been previously on my way up to 360 pounds. But I also know that I had grown a couple of inches from where I was at those previous weights. So I knew that that could play a part. And just a lot of things played a factor in that, including the fact that didn't really have a whole lot of pictures to look back on that time of my life. And I can't help but think of one time that did stick with me. This was not long after I'd started back at McDonald's the second time. So I've worked at McDonald's for over 13 years in my life. The first time around was high school and college and a little beyond. And then I went back later in my 20s as a manager and stayed on for about 6.5, almost 7 years. And it was that second time when I was in my 20s. And this was a day that I had opened. So we had to show up at like 3 or 3:30 every day and then have the doors open by 4:30 or 5. And I was standing in the front drive-through window, the window where they hand your food out to you, right? And I remember the window had shut. And this wasn't even the new sliding drive-through window that most of them seem to have now. This was the old push-out, like folding window that we used to have. And the window was shut. It was completely dark outside except for the lights in our parking lot. And then we had all the lights on in the store. So with it being so dark out when the window was shut, you couldn't really see outside at all. All you would see was your reflection back at you, right? And the way that that drive-through window had closed, it was almost like a funhouse mirror. And it was the first time I can recall looking at a reflection and seeing anything close to what I look like now. And that was such a key moment for me to be able to visualize it and then be able to continue to visualize what I might look like if I lost the weight. So I understand that it might not always be beneficial or helpful to everyone, but I often look at it like a tool. And you can use these types of tools to change your hair color or hairstyle. You can use these types of tools to try out different makeup looks on your face. And it's not necessarily that you want to go change everything about your appearance. It's just you want to see what you might look like under different circumstances, right? So I'm not really sure how that would be different than checking out what a different hairstyle would look like under one of these types of filters. And again, I fully understand that this type of tool might not be beneficial for everyone, but I do understand how beneficial that visualization was for me in that moment. How it allowed me to see beyond what I was seeing in the mirror every day and to see a future in which I didn't look like what I looked like in the mirror every day. And again, I am fully aware that this might not be a tool that is beneficial for everyone. But I gotta say, having that moment of visualization when I did, it was priceless. But our friend is not done responding to comments about this filter, so let's see what she has to say in the next one. And our friend is responding to a comment that reads, overweight people love to try to push being overweight onto others by telling thin women they don't look good. LOL.
Honestly, you fucking people wouldn't survive a day living in a fat body.
I have many, many days and nights and years. And yes, I absolutely survived. And I consider myself incredibly lucky that I did, because I'm very lucky that I didn't cause permanent damage with my morbid obesity. So yeah, I survived. And you always know that you're off to a good start for a response when you hear, you fucking people. I'm certain we're in for a very well-balanced and nuanced take based upon that intro, right?
Because not a day goes by where I post on TikTok and I don't get fat shamed.
Okay, so I did take a look at her comment sections, and I will admit on that first TikTok that I showed, that one appears to have gone much more viral and a larger audience has responded to it. But looking at most of her comment sections, it seemed she had a lot of people hyping her up. A lot. The vast majority, actually. So I understand that when you do put content on the internet, you might get the occasional negative comment. Believe me, most of my feedback is incredibly positive, and I love you all so much for it. But every once in a blue moon, I will get a comment that just makes me go, oh, okay. Or just, quite frankly, makes me laugh hysterically because it's so out of pocket or so out of left field. And I do understand that, yes, when you are an overweight individual posting online, there is a chance always that somebody is going to bring that up, and they might not bring it up in the nicest way. But I also see a lot of these comment sections where it's nothing but women hyping up other women. You go, queen. Yes, girl. All of these things over and over and over again. You're so beautiful. You slay. Oh my gosh. And don't get me wrong. It's lovely to receive those comments. It really is. But if you're only going to focus on the negative and then completely ignore all the positive that you're getting, I feel like you're almost looking for it at that point. So when I do get those occasional comments that might be out of left field, that's why I laugh, because I know that the vast majority of my comments aren't about any of those things at all. Most people are responding to the content that I've put out or the questions that I've asked throughout the video, right? But I choose to focus on the positive feedback that I'm receiving and not focus on the occasional comment that I might get. And the same thing happens for me across other social media platforms. When you put something out on Twitter, it can get retweeted all over the place and you have no control over it once it leaves your hands, right? But I choose to mute things or block people as necessary so that way I don't have to focus on the negativity. So yes, I do understand that these types of comments exist, especially online, but I also understand that we have the ability to choose how we're going to spend our time and energy while we're online, right?
It is constant.
But again, just the little bit that I did look at her page, especially these videos in particular where she's responding to all of these comments, unless she is deleting comments, the ones that I had the ability to see, they were all positive. They were all people hyping her up, telling her she was beautiful, telling her she was right. I didn't see that, at least just looking through her comment sections. Now, I understand she could have gone through and deleted a bunch of comments. She could have filters in place. I understand that. But I am also seeing the positive comments she's getting as well. And so if you're going to say that the negative is a constant, then wouldn't you also want to acknowledge the constant praise that you're getting too? Or is she just only seeking to find the negative in this?
So do not come into my comment section and tell me I'm body shaming thin people or that thin people have it as bad as fat people.
Okay, but she did body shame. She said that some of those women looked better using the filter. That's body shaming. That's saying that they didn't look good in their current body. I mean, right? Like, did I accidentally smack my head against something really hard and just not remember? And like, I'm having trouble processing logic and reason now because she did body shame. It's deflection. It's the same thing that Tess Holiday just did in our last video. Well, other people do worse, so what I do isn't bad. It's the same thing. Oh, well, other people body shame me, so who cares what happens to thin women? So I don't know, maybe this is just me, but if I've gone through something terrible in my life, I don't wish that upon other people. I don't want other people to have to go through the same pain and misery that I have gone through. I'm not going to wish that on anyone, like not even my enemies or, I don't even know if I have enemies, but like my least favorite person in this world. I wouldn't wish any bad thing I've ever gone through on somebody at all. I could not imagine wishing something bad on others just because you went through something bad. That kind of sounds like what bullies do.
I don't say a fucking word about anyone's bodies until y'all start a trend pretending to be fat to make fun of us and for gym motivation. So you can fuck right off with that.
Okay, so why don't we go ahead and take a look at a couple more of these videos that use this filter? Maybe the one that we looked at just wasn't that bad. But if you read her caption, it says still look good though. So doesn't appear she thinks she looks bad. She just wishes to go to the gym so she can look the way that she currently does. So I don't think that that's terribly upsetting. Let's check out another. Okay, I didn't see anyone making fun of anyone. I don't see anyone using it as gym motivation. And I mean, the other one that we watched, she was just using that as gym motivation for herself. She was making an I statement. I need to go to the gym. That's what she was saying. So I'm not sure why our friend would personalize that. Now, I fully admit, I am sure there are many, many more videos underneath this trend. I certainly don't have the time to look for all of them. But what I did do is go through TikTok's search function and search for this trend. And these were the top ones that came up. And most of the top ones that came up were people complaining about this trend.
You know what I think is a little bit funny with the chubby filter that all the skinny girls are using right now? You all look objectively better with the filter on. Like, the before photo was giving, like, mean girl in high school who is now a nurse and, like, commits elderly abuse on the daily, and the after is giving, like, a baddie who has all her shit on lock and, like, smells really good. Sorry.
I do not believe in God, but I am praying on my knees at the altar, hands together, that every single one of the thin people who used that chubby AI filter to then say something fat phobic and awful in the caption, to then also allow their comment sections to just spew hatred, get fat. It might not be today. It might not be tomorrow. It could be 5 years from now. And then karma is an because guess who they're going to need to come to feel good about themselves, to remind themselves that being fat is not the worst thing about them. Their personality is. Me. I will be there. See you then.
Not people participating in it. So I don't know if that might be something that is different across other people's algorithms, but I didn't come across that type of content that she was describing, that people were using her for gym motivation or to make fun of her or make fun of fat people in general. I just saw people making statements about themselves. It's no different than if someone comes up to me and says, "Hey, I love your hair. I would never have short hair, but I love your hair." That has been said to me almost word for word so many times since I've cut my hair short. I've had it short now for about 8 years in this style. And so many people have told me that they like it on me or they think it's cute, or they don't even tell me that. And they just tell me they would never have short hair. Am I going to take offense to that? No. Just like if I have short hair, does that mean someone with long hair should take offense because I don't want long hair like them? No. If somebody changes their hair color or literally anything else about their appearance, is that a slap in the face to somebody who had the original attributes? If somebody has brown eyes and then they put in blue contacts, does that mean I, as a person with brown eyes, should get offended? Like, legitimately, I have way bigger fish to fry at this point in my life. And I think a lot of people do. I don't know how people have so much time to worry about what other people are doing at this point, honestly. But I do understand that there may be videos using this trend or using this filter, and pretty much all of them that I've seen have that Doechii anxiety song to them. So that's why you're not hearing any music. But to be fair, I hear pretty much every second or third video on my feed right now has that song. So I don't think that has anything to do with it. And I mean, realistically, I see people use filters all the time on TikTok. All the time. People add freckles, people add eyelashes, people age themselves up or age themselves down. People change their hair color or their hairstyle. People will change themselves from a man into a woman or a woman into a man. We do this all the time with filters to change up our appearance. So I'm still not understanding why it's such a big deal to have a filter that makes someone chubby. But let's see if our friend has any further explanation on this because she's not done responding to comments yet. Okay, and our friend is responding to the comment that reads, "You better not be saying these things and then calling yourself a girl's girl."
I'm sorry. You think being a girl's girl means blindly supporting all girls, including the ones who bully and make fun of people who are fat? They don't get girls' privileges.
Wow, okay. I have a couple of things on that one. First off, I don't know, the term girl's girl or just full-grown women calling themselves girls in any fashion, it gives me the ick in ways I can't even begin to describe. I'm not a girl. I birthed one. I'm a woman. Why do we want to all be girls or girlies? Especially, I'm 41. I am not a girly. Okay. So I'm sorry. I just had to get that off my chest. These terms drive me absolutely insane. And then the other thing that comes to mind, just because someone hurts you, that doesn't give you the green light to hurt them. That's exactly what bullies do. Every single bully out there in existence was at one point a victim. And then they got tired of being a victim and they decided to do to others what was done to them. Where I personally believe you should treat others how you wish to be treated, not how you were treated. Because I tell you this, if I treated others how I've been treated in my life, I wouldn't want to be around myself. I'd be insufferable because I've gone through a lot of crap. But because of that, I've learned and grown from that and realized if I don't want to go through that, why would I wish anyone else to go through that? And it seems like there's so many people within these movements that just want to go tit for tat. You said something about my weight, so I will say something back about your appearance. You can't body shame me because that's fat shaming, but you're a skinny mini, you're a thin mint, you should eat a cheeseburger, only dogs want bones, real men love curves. And then it goes back and forth, tit for tat. And at a certain point, don't you just want to be the mature individual and, I don't know, not sink to their level, not become a bully yourself? And I don't know, maybe I've just been thinking about this a lot recently because I did just happen to finish up the series Cobra Kai, which, spoiler alert, there really won't be spoilers, but we will discuss a little bit about the plot and the central themes of the show. So if you want to watch it, I think you'll probably be okay. And if you haven't watched or don't care, you'll get the gist. I hope. But seriously, check it out. It was a fantastic show. One of my favorite shows. And honestly, much better than it had any business being. To be fair, I love the original Karate Kid. I loved Karate Kid Part 2. That was actually my favorite movie growing up, although I was confused and thought that one was actually Karate Kid Part 3. And well, I didn't even get to watch the whole movie. My mom had taped the very end of it off of HBO, but we got the very end of Karate Kid Part 2. And for a long time, I was convinced that was Karate Kid Part 3. And then when I would tell people that my favorite movie was Karate Kid Part 3, and then I was explaining the ending, and they were all like, no, that's Karate Kid Part 2. So there's that. So clearly I do love those movies, but they are very much product of their time. They are 80s movies. They're incredibly cheesy, and some parts about it very much hold up. Some parts about it are very much 80s cheese, which also for me holds up. But I gotta say, I enjoyed Cobra Kai so much more than any of the movies because it really delved into a lot of topics on a very deep level. And one of the main central themes that runs through all 6 seasons is exploring this notion of who is a bully and who is a victim. And when does a victim become a bully? And when does a bully become a victim? So in the original Karate Kid movie, it is very much told from Daniel LaRusso's side that Johnny Lawrence is the bully. And Daniel is the new kid who showed up from out of state and is just trying to make friends and fit into his new high school, right? But then you got Johnny Lawrence coming along trying to pick fights with him and getting mad that he's dating his ex-girlfriend and all sorts of other things. So throughout that entire movie, the perspective is that Johnny is the bully and Daniel is the victim. It's pretty black and white. But throughout those 6 seasons, there was no black and white at all. At times, Johnny was the bully. At times, Daniel was the bully. And what often changed your mind on that was perspective. Not anything that actually changed as far as what transpired, but the point of view you saw it from, the context that you got with the backstories. All of these things came together in the end to show that there really wasn't that much of a difference between Johnny and Daniel. Yes, they have their differences, but when it came to who was the bully and who was the victim, they had to find their common ground and realize that they had to move forward and not worry about any of that anymore, that they had to be the bigger people. And like I said, it was just a fantastic show, and I highly recommend it to everybody. It's so damn good. I love that show. And so when I hear, oh, well, I was never a bully until they were a bully to me. 2 wrongs don't make a right. And last I checked, they never will. And look, I understand it is not fun to feel like a victim, but I can't imagine the solution is to then become a bully. But let's see if she explains this in the next one. Okay, and our friend is responding to a comment that reads, "That's what this whole trend is doing. I hate this turn the other cheek mentality."
Yeah, I would love to acknowledge this amazing comment. Anyone who is marginalized in any way, and fat people are.
How can the majority of the population be marginalized? In America, 2/3 of the population are overweight or obese. So how on earth can they be marginalized? They're not a minority. I know they love to cosplay as one, but they're not. They're simply not. And it's also, something that can be changed. You don't always have to be a fat person. You might not always be a thin person. I mean, these things do change based on your lifestyle habits, right? So that's a huge difference between someone who cannot change the color of their skin, someone who cannot change their height, someone who cannot change their gender. There's a huge difference than someone who is fat and next year might not be. And again, how can the majority be marginalized? By its very definition, that excludes them from being marginalized because they're the majority.
Are always expected to turn the other cheek and be the bigger person. I'm fucking tired of being the bigger person. Pun intended. Because I am the bigger person. I have no fucking sympathy. I really, really fucking don't. If you want to be as brazen as coming on the fucking internet and making open fun of fat people, I will fucking come for you. I just will.
Okay, does she have an example of that happening with this filter? Again, I searched. I didn't search as far as one could, clearly, but I feel like her argument would have a lot more weight to it. Yes, pun intended. If she actually provided an example of this, not just, well, it happens. Where's the example of people using this filter to make fun of fat people? If I put on one of those filters on TikTok and it's supposed to turn my hair blonde and it does a really crappy job of it, which they usually do. They don't know how to handle my red hair, truthfully. And so like the top is like yellow and then there's like weird orange and pink and stuff underneath every time I use one of those blonde filters. So if I put one of those filters on me and just sat there and laughed my butt off at what I saw looking back at me, am I making fun of people with blonde hair? No, I'm not. And if I were to put that out there and then people with blonde hair started personalizing that and taking that to mean that I was making fun of them, I'd have a lot of questions about why they were taking it so personally. And that's kind of where I'm at right here. If someone puts up something saying, this is what I look like, or this is what I look like chubby, or this is what I would look like if I don't go to the gym, this is what I look like if I put on 50 pounds, they're talking about themselves. They're not talking about other people. They're not certainly talking about our friend here, unless, again, she has an example she would like to provide. Maybe she'll have one for us in this next one because she's still not done responding to comments. Our friend is responding to a comment that reads, don't gotta eat 9,000 calories a day to be fed. Most of us skinny women follow BMI, which actually determines whether you're at a healthy weight. I'm sure our friend took that comment really well.
I beg of you people to put your pitchforks down, to accept that people of all different sizes can be healthy.
People of all different sizes can be healthy. So if our friend came upon someone who, I don't know, was so thin you could count their ribs and you see their heart essentially beating out of their chest, she might think that they're healthy. She's not going to think that they're malnourished or potentially starving. Because realistically, we understand when we see someone who is severely underweight that that is not healthy. At least I really hope we do, right? So if we're willing to admit that being underweight is unhealthy, then I don't think it's that big of a stretch to see someone who might be 500 or 600 pounds and go, I don't think that's healthy either, right? So at any size, well, why don't we go ahead and check in with one of our old friends, Tess Holiday, and see how she's holding up.
Miss Tess Rocker!
I mean, truth be told, I wasn't planning on covering her so quickly. She was just in my last video, and I covered her about a month or so before this as well. I really wasn't trying to cover her again, but let's go ahead and see what our friend's been up to.
Besties, I have an update. Turns out you can rip a ligament in your leg for having the biggest, juiciest ass in the world.
Really?
So is Tess Holiday actually admitting that her size caused her injury? I don't think it's a shock to anybody, but is she actually admitting it?
Not really.
No, really.
Really?
So I'm genuinely curious for our new friend. People at every size can be healthy, because clearly Tess just admitted that having a fat ass tore a ligament in her leg. And I have to admit, I have a couple of questions, if I'm being perfectly honest. First question I have: how did she find out that she tore a ligament from the ER? I'm genuinely curious. I'm not trying to throw shade here by any stretch. I am genuinely curious. So, for those of you that don't know, I dealt with a terrible ankle injury for years and years. We're talking 10 and a half years from the time of my initial injury to the time of my surgery. I tore 2 tendons, 2 ligaments, a bunch of cartilage, and had to have bones restructured in my ankle. And then had to relearn how to walk, relearn how to ride a bike, relearn how to jump, relearn how to point my toes, walk up stairs, walk up hills, all sorts of fun things after that. But I gotta say, I went to the ER so many damn times over that ankle over the years. When I first injured it, when I injured it the second time, when I just couldn't take it any longer and like my tendon was dislocated and sticking out the side of my leg. And each and every single time, all they would ever do was give me an x-ray and then say, well, you didn't break it. I guess you probably should follow up with orthopedics. Every single time. They never gave me an MRI or a CAT scan or anything. So I'm genuinely curious how she was able to get a ligament tear actually diagnosed in the ER. And not just myself either. One of my family members actually messed up their knee just a few weeks back, and they went to the ER, got x-rays done, same deal. Well, you didn't break it, so you should probably follow up with orthopedics. They got an MRI, and yeah, that's how they found out they tore a bunch of stuff, by going to the orthopedist and getting an MRI there. So I'm really curious how she did get that diagnosed. I don't know if perhaps maybe the doctor said you may have or you might have, and she's just running with it. That's just speculation on my part, but my experience, that doesn't line up with what has happened to me every single time I've been to the ER. And imagine, I went to 5 different hospitals all throughout Northeast Ohio. So at no point did they ever offer an MRI or a CT scan. And as a matter of fact, I went to many orthopedists that didn't even order the MRI, and they just kept ordering x-rays. So I'm flabbergasted. Not that this happened, but that she actually got a diagnosis in the ER on a soft tissue injury. That's utterly astounding. That being said, I do wish the best for our friend Tess here, truthfully. I know how difficult it was having my ankle messed up, and how much that really just screwed up my entire life for a really, really long time. Now, part of that was because I couldn't get a proper diagnosis and I couldn't get my surgery and all of those things because of that, but I also know how difficult it was just trying to get around on crutches when I was the size that I was. The first time I injured it back in 2004, I was about 220 to 230, so larger than I am now, but nowhere near as large as I got. And then when I injured it the second time in 2008, I was around my heaviest. I was around 360 pounds. And trying to move myself on crutches at 360 pounds, it was damn near impossible. It just was. And not just moving myself around on crutches, but things like getting to and from the bathroom, getting on and off the toilet, getting in and out of the shower, going to the kitchen and trying to prepare any sort of food for myself. All of these things were just damn near impossible. And at 220 to 230 pounds, certainly wasn't a walk in the park, but it was a hell of a lot easier than it was at 360 pounds. So I'm genuinely curious if our friend Tess is actually going to be able to move around with crutches. And even if that would be a good idea for her to do so, or if that could cause potential other issues to her other leg or her back or her wrists, her elbows, her shoulders, so many other things. So I have several questions about our friend here. And she did at least take the time to film another TikTok around this time. So why don't we check that one out?
This is a What's in My Bag ER edition. So here's my purse. It's a bagoo. It's my first bagoo. So my purse, my wallet. Don't cancel me. I bought this.
I don't care about her wallet. I am genuinely shocked, flabbergasted, dismayed, appalled that she's evidently on her way to the ER. But first, she's got to stop and film this TikTok. And it's so crucial that we know what's in her purse. How is she not in extreme pain? I am thoroughly confused by this whole thing. I am fucking speechless. Like, legitimately. Tearing tendons and ligaments in my ankle was one of the most excruciating things I've gone through in my life. I have no clue how on earth she is just sitting here so calmly showing us the contents of her bag. Like, legitimately. After I screwed up my ankle, well, I have to admit, it was the most embarrassing thing that I've ever gone through in my entire life. At least the first time around. That was just, it was so fun. I messed up my ankle right after the Labor Day parade in my city, and that Labor Day parade is huge. It lasts like almost 2 hours long. There are so many people that come in from out of town and even out of state to come to this parade, right? And it was literally right after the parade was over. I was walking across the street, and here's the crosswalk, here's the street, and there went my ankle. And it literally snapped so loudly that I had people like literally form a circle all around me in the street because I'm literally laying there and can't get up, right? And you can hear people whispering, "Oh my God, did you hear she broke her leg? That chick just broke her leg. Oh my God, did you hear that snap?" So legitimately, every cop, every firefighter, every EMT, they all came rushing toward me, thankfully. But then also there was, let's see, the marching band, maybe a couple. There was the football team. There was the baseball team. There were the cheerleaders. There was literally everybody else who had been watching the parade. The most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to me. I literally just wanted a hole to open up in the street and like swallow me whole in that moment. And because this happened right when it did, right in the middle of the street, and I'm like literally like blocks and blocks away from our vehicle, they grab an ambulance for me right away and throw me in the back of it. And I had no time whatsoever to do any of this. And even if I did have the time to be doing any of this, I would have been in so much pain. You would never have caught me sitting here so calmly. Look at my wallet. Don't cancel me. My dear, I think you have bigger problems than what brand your wallet is at this point. At least I would hope so if she is going to use the resource of the emergency room. This is just mind-boggling to me, truthfully. Like I said, tearing all of that in my ankle was so incredibly painful. There's no shot in hell I could have been doing this. So this just leads me to more questions, quite frankly.
Years ago, and it's my only wallet. An Uncrustable for me, and an Uncrustable for Bowie. Some meat sticks for Bowie because he loves these. A charger. Some cuties. There's another one in here. My glasses. My Makeup Forever HD palette. You never know. Just in
Yes, that's clearly a necessity when you're going to the ER. And look, I could give her some shit about the food in her bag because I get it, but she does have her kid and who knows how long you're going to be there. So I understand that's probably better than vending machine food. The makeup, that's excessive. Come on.
case. Some Altoids. A hairbrush that a cutie bought me. Oh my god, Vaseline, a Fruit by the Foot, another cord. I'm not, but just in case. Oh my god, this perfume, the K. Ali one. There's hair on everything. I'm sorry. And then, tweezers, some crayons. I like to color on things. I don't know, it's just fun. Oh, my pocket decision book because I'm indecisive. I'm not indecisive today. And a mirror and my AirPods. Wish me luck.
Well, that definitely didn't give us any further insight as to what actually happened to our friend here. But it does give me a lot of insight to the idea that she had plenty of time and the wherewithal to make that TikTok before she went for her supposed emergency. So now, again, I just have so many questions, but I do think it is pretty clear that she at the very least did have an issue with her leg, or it looks like that was a knee brace, quite frankly. And well, given everything that we know about knees and how they handle the pressure of all the additional weight, I don't think it's a stretch to think that she messed up her knee. So again, can we be healthy at any size? Truly? Because our friend here just admitted that it was her juicy ass that caused her to tear her ligament, let alone all of the complications that come along with being obese. Of course, the heart disease, the diabetes, the liver problems, the arthritis, the increased risk for stroke and Alzheimer's and cancers. And I mean, like, take your freaking pick, right? But I suppose we can be healthy at any size, right? So let's head back to our new friend and see what else she has to say.
And that no one owes anybody health, first of all.
Okay, of all of the things that I hear come out of fat acceptance, body positivity, health at every size, any of those movements, that is the one that gets under my skin the most. No one owes anyone health. I get it that I don't owe random people my health, but for those people in my life that I care for, love, take care of myself, I absolutely owe them the best version of myself. And the best version of myself is where I take care of my health. Each and every single time. My extended family, my friends, don't they deserve the best version of me? And I understand that, yes, we're all going to have our ups and downs, that we're all going to go through our things, right? But if I don't take care of my health, I end up in a wheelchair at 50 because my mobility goes to shit. And now I put the task of caretaking onto my children. Bet you they're going to have a very different opinion on how they would feel about that. It's one thing if you do take care of yourself and these things still befall you. Believe me, I understand that might still happen. But I understand that there's a huge difference between it being a possibility versus it being a probability because I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Huge difference. Also, a much easier pill to swallow if I know that I've done everything that I'm supposed to do or everything I'm able to do and it still wasn't enough. At least then I can know that I tried everything. And I say this knowing that I will never fit the textbook definition of health. I am chronically ill. I have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, among many other chronic conditions that go alongside it. But I know that my body is never going to be, quote, healthy. The collagen inside is always going to be put together incorrectly, kind of like a drunken toddler with a Lego set. But I also know that what I do has a direct effect on how much that affects me. If I stay active, I have the ability to stay more active. If I rest for too long, my joints stiffen up, and it takes a hell of a long time for me to be able to get up and moving after that. So it behooves me to stay as active as I can for as long as I can. And I understand that there are going to be limitations. There's going to be times where I'm not going to be able to, or I'm going to have to rest, right? But I also know that what I do can directly impact my health and that my health is going to directly impact my family, especially those that would have to take care of me. So going back to that surgery that I had on my ankle, which I actually just passed my 10-year anniversary on that. I was actually yesterday. When I had that surgery, I not only needed help taking care of myself, but my son was 6 weeks old, so I needed help taking care of him as well. And so you don't think that impacted my family directly? So while I guess I didn't owe people my health, they were greatly impacted by it. Okay, you don't owe it to anyone else? Fine. Okay, you don't have kids. You're not in a relationship. You're single as a Pringle. Go for it. Don't you owe it to yourself? This is the one thing they have said over and over again that I just disagree with on every single level. You don't owe anyone your health. Don't you owe it to yourself?
And then I also kindly request that you do a little bit of research and realize that it is widely agreed upon by doctors and science and research that the BMI is an incredibly outdated and not useful metric to understand bodies or health. The history of the BMI is incredibly racist and Eurocentric and was based and created solely based on studying white men. Furthermore, the BMI has been changed in the last 50 years. And the reason it was changed was to get more insurance money out of people.
Okay, so she wants us to do our own research, right? And find out that the people that do study this have determined that BMI is flawed, right? Well, I definitely went over that with Tess Holiday about a month or so ago. They know that BMI is flawed, absolutely, but that's not going to make people that are 100 pounds overweight right now suddenly healthy if they get rid of it tomorrow. They're going to change how they utilize it. They're not getting rid of it. They just don't think it's properly utilized right now. So if your BMI is over 30, guess what they're going to do? They're going to pull out a measuring tape when you're at the doctor's office and see what your waist circumference is. And also, I believe they want to go away from calling it the body mass index and call it the body roundness index. And if you're already considered obese by the current standards of BMI, not much is really going to change. You're still going to be considered obese. So this idea that they're going to get rid of BMI and that all of a sudden obese people are suddenly going to be labeled as healthy is just not accurate, not even in the least little bit. And then she says that they changed BMI so they could charge more money on insurance. And to that I have to say, she needs to show her work. I would really like some proof that that is why they changed BMI, because last I checked, doctors outside of the US do use BMI. However, pretty much every nation outside of the US has some form of universal health care. They don't use private insurance, so that's not going to affect BMI outside of the US, right? But yet they changed the standards outside of the US. So if she's making the claim that they changed it to charge more through insurance companies, I'm definitely going to need to see some proof on that.
Not that any of you losers actually care about being educated, because you just hate fat people, but there's tons of research on how inaccurate and not useful the BMI is. This is from the National Library of Medicine, and there's plenty more where that came from if you care at all about educating yourself. At this point, the BMI is only used to categorize people for the government. So, yeah. And just another thing, doctors are fallible human beings. I know our society loves to say that, all doctors know everything, but it's simply not true. Doctors have biases, just like any other.
Who has ever said all doctors know everything? Do you take your car to the doctor because it needs a tune-up? Or do you take it to a mechanic because the doctor doesn't know anything about cars? And again, she's making these claims without backing any of this up. The idea that people say that doctors know everything about everything and that evidently BMI is only used to categorize us with the government. I hope she's got some proof to back some of this up.
Person, and that can cloud their judgment. So, for example, my doctor does not weigh me. She does not care about my BMI. She cares about my internal health and my mental health. So, doctors like that exist.
So she found a doctor that told her what she wants to hear. Because if her doctor really does care about her internal health and her mental health, then her doctor should understand all of that is tied with weight. It truly is. When you become obese or morbidly obese, it's not good for your internal health, especially if you have visceral fat choking out your organs. That's not good at all. It's also not good for your mental health. There's been study after study after study that shows being obese causes cognitive decline. There's a lot of research now showing that Alzheimer's is a form of insulin resistance, and they're starting to call it type 3 diabetes. So if you want to keep your mental health in check, the research and the science actually shows. So if her doctor really does care about those things, but ignores her weight, then she doesn't really care about those things. Our friend just found a doctor that told her what she wants to hear. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at this actual study and see what it says? All right, here we go. I found that exact study. So let's go ahead and read the abstract and see if it backs up her claims. Body mass index is an anthropometric index that is commonly used in the medical setting and is a factor in assessing various disease risks, but its origins are unknown by many. More importantly, BMI does not properly assess body fat percentage and muscle mass or distinguish abdominal fat from gluteofemoral fat, which is important to note because abdominal fat is associated with insulin resistance, metabolic disease, and cardiovascular complications. Using a less accurate index to assess the relationship between weight and disease risk is conceptually invalid because the use of BMI ultimately trickles into patient treatment, preventative medicine, and overall health outcomes. Several different anthropometric indices that more accurately assess abdominal adiposity through the incorporation of waist circumference exist and have been extensively studied, such as waist to hip ratio, waist to height ratio, and body shape index. Sounds like the body roundness index, doesn't it? It is important that we consider replacing BMI's usage in the healthcare setting with a different anthropometric index, one that considers height, sex, and race differences, accounts for abdominal adiposity, and more accurately predicts the relationship between obesity, mortality, and diseases such as cardiovascular disease, hypertension, insulin resistance, and diabetes. So reading through that, it almost sounds like BMI is not catching enough people that are at risk for these conditions, and they're trying to make sure that they catch as many people as they can. Not that the government is trying to label you or that insurance companies are trying to charge you more money or any of the other claims that she has made. And it doesn't sound like they're going away from it, but that they wish to incorporate other indices with it, checking for waist to hip ratio, waist to height ratio, having body fat percentage scans, etc. I'll go ahead and link a New York Times article down below that covered this whole thing with Tess Holiday just about a month or so ago. So again, they're not getting rid of BMI. They just wish to change how it's used, and they want to change some of the language around it, but they're still going to use it. And in some cases, they want to pull out measuring tapes, and in other cases, they want you to have a body fat scan done. So BMI is not going away. And again, if you're already considered obese by the current metric, you're not going to suddenly be labeled healthy tomorrow unless you are one of those rare cases that does hold a lot of muscle. But again, most people aren't going to confuse a very muscular person with an obese person who has excess body fat. That is where we end part 1. So let me know down in the comments below, what do you think? I'm genuinely curious and I love reading all of your responses. That is where we'll leave things today. I thank you so much for joining me. Please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye! It's Tony time. Hi, kitten. Yes, this is our baby girl. This is Tony. Yeah, she is a rare orange gal. Guess what, like 80% of orange kitties are male? She's one of the rare 20% that's female. Yes, look at you. Hi. Yeah, say hi. No, you're so pretty. Yeah, we can tell everyone bye? Say bye.